I'd like to firstly welcome everyone for joining. My name is Nicole Schoeni. I am the founder of Schoeni Projects. We're here today to talk about from IRL in real life to Metaverse and unlocking the brave new world of art. There's so much to talk about, I think, on this subject. And I have to say, as excited as I am about potential, I'm also a bit of a cynic. But I put that down to lack of understanding. And I'm not ashamed to admit I'm a layman. I often say I'm tech cursed and I'm also tech illiterate. But I believe also in the importance of embracing change and how best to utilize technology. So for Schoeni Projects, we find it as a way to reach out to a wider audience. We're more focused on a non-commercial side, but also seeing it as an educational tool. So this talk started because we built our own metaverse. It began as an adventure to demonstrate and to show my father's art collection. And it's been a very steep learning curve. So I'm very pleased to have experts in the field here today with me to discuss about it. So like I said, so many topics to cover: crypto, NFT, application of blockchain, metaverse like sandbox, DCL. And I feel like each topic could be a discussion in itself, but I'm going to try and focus on the insights regarding art and Web3. So we have three speakers today. We've got Sylvain Levy, who is the co-founder of the DSL collection. We've got Jillian Howard, who's the founder and fair director of the Digital Art Fair, and artist Jackie Tsai. So I think I'm going to start with Sylvain. I was trying to remember, Sylvain, when we first met, and I think it was in 2010 when your collection collected an artist called Chen Fei. And I felt like we had an instant bond, not just over Chinese contemporary art, but I love that you also brought your daughter into the fold, you know, family tradition, family business, bringing art generation, and also, of course, your innovative spirit in collecting. And I really believe you are a pioneer in this field. I think it's safe to say you were one of the first to create a virtual museum. And you started in 2012, where you built museum in Second Life. Now, I have to admit, because I'm tech illiterate, I have not visited any of your virtual museums yet. But my first question is for you, Sylvain, and I was wondering what really motivated you to build the virtual museum in the first place. If you could start with that.
It's more than a pleasure. It's something very, very touchy for me to be with you today. I will tell you why. Because, we have the same journey, and we'll speak of the journey of a collector. I have what your father has done, and what you've done after you and your mother is exactly the same spirit that we have in our journey as a collector. And what your family has done for Chinese contemporary art was always very inspiring, especially for people like us who are not living in China. And so to be with you today and to discuss that is really a very special webinar for me, to tell you the truth.
Thank you.
And I really mean it. And so coming back to what you said, once again, I think it's important to say that a collection is a personal adventure. And everybody, make his collection as he wants. And there is not good or bad collection. There is different types of journey. Our journey was, because first we are an old collectors couple, because we've collecting for 37 years. And so we went through, I shall say, the Leo Castelli model to the metaverse. And it was very interesting to see how we have transformed the notion of a collection because of only one thing. We decided with this DSL collection that it has not only to be a collection of Chinese contemporary art, not only a collection of a family collection, but always a collection which speaks the language of its time. And when we began the collection in 2005, we decided that it was a museum type collection And naturally, when you speak of museum type collection, how are you going to share the collection with the others? 2005, it was the beginning of YouTube. And so we decided that internet should be one way to do it. And so from that time, we decided to surf on the digital wave. It brought it, as you said, from iPad to Second Life to video games to Metaverse and virtual reality. And tomorrow, perhaps it will be hologram, it will be something else. But it's just the idea that we want to share the collection to make it meaningful for the people. And to make it meaningful for the people, you have to use the right medium and the right message to make it, I shall say, meaningful. So this is how we were into technology. But I can tell you something, the best technology is when technology doesn't exist anymore. You use your iPhone without asking yourself, what is technology? And the day when the metaverse will become part of your life, it means that the metaverse has succeeded. So, you know.
Well, it's still very much, would you agree that it's still very much in its infancy? I mean, that's also why, you know, we looked into the metaverse, was really thinking about the younger generation and how they're sort of living in this, you know, world now today where technology is so much part of their life, right? And it's a way, I think, to connect with younger people. I wonder whether part of your purpose of doing this was to reach out to what type of audience, like what was your target audience, for example?
Before answering to your question, I think that we have to be clear on the words. You know, the definition of metaverse is something very, very vague at this moment. And perhaps I'll give you my definition in a very simple way. And just again, it's just my definition. You know, at this moment, we are going on the internet. I'm looking at you, I go on the internet. And tomorrow you will live in internet. You will live in internet for one reason, special reason. And the COVID has shown us is that now everyone has a digital twin. This digital twin spends X hours on a world, it was a virtual world, which became an alternative reality. And so this world in which we are living, today we are living through Zoom, but tomorrow you will live it through your avatar. And it's changed everything because it will not be anymore about content, but it will be about yourself, how you will act in this world, what type of emotions, desire, way to connect, way to consume, you will have to address for the avatar. So this is a little bit what is the metaverse for me. It's not just about being virtual, it's much more than that. It's a huge transformation of the human being that we're addressing today. And especially the young people are totally already in this. If you go to Fortnite, if you go to Decentraland, they are totally living there. You can have an Ariana Grande concert and have 20 million people there. So this is for me the metaverse. Once we've said something like this, we are just at the infancy of that, because today we have to have the hardware, we have to have the software, we have the right experience, and we have to have the right way to monetize all that. But to tell you the truth, why we are lucky with DSL, because if you add virtual reality, plus Second Life, plus video game, plus social network, this is the metaverse.
Yeah.
And so what is important today is not to say I'm going to the metaverse, but it's trying to address what are the needs of the people and to address in a very holistic way, I shall say, the way to reach it.
Yeah, I think something earlier, which you mentioned before we went online, was that, you know, the experience shouldn't be mirroring real life, which is actually something, you know, I was talking to you about SPXR and how it's a steep learning curve. And I'm sort of, I see the failures. Of course, people were excited about what we've done. But one of the main things is this experience, you know, something that is not of real life. And that's why, you know, I find it so fascinating how you've done a lot of projects involving gaming, right? This incorporation of your art collection and inviting gamers to create games around it Could you tell me about one of the projects which you've done?
Yeah, I think that why we went into gaming, it's a good question. You know, it was natural to go into gaming for an art collection. When the COVID arrived, everybody went online, but most of the experiences were not very good because they were just mirroring the offline online. And we noticed that the people who managed the best the screen were the people from the video games. And also it's a community of 2 billion people playing, and there is a monetary system, an ecosystem, monetary system, which is working very well, which is not the case in the ecosystem in the art world. So we decided to find a way to have I should say, a double experience, a video game experience with very special metrics of success, and an art experience. And fortunately, we found a team in Hong Kong, and we create this game, The Forgotten, with Alison Young and Alan Kwan. And fortunately, it was a success. It was nominated the best video games, serious video games of the year by Tencent, and we had also other prizes. And now we are doing another video game, but this time with a Franco-Romanian team. We have learned a lot on that, because if you go to the metaverse, you will have to create, as you said, different types of experiences than the real world. And especially you have to create experiences based on gamification. This is very important. You have to learn today the language of gamification if you want to reach the young audiences, especially. So once again, we are always, I should say, testing and learning. And I think that we have to go into this process at this moment, slowly and slowly. But we can, if we don't go into this process, we're not able, I think we will not be able to address all these new challenges.
Yeah, well, of course, not everyone is willing to take this test and learn risk. So I applaud you on that.
You know, once again, I don't have the true side. You know, once again, you speak of a journey of a collector. I think it's very interesting because really, I feel we speak the same language, you know, with you and your parents and especially your father. You know, when you speak of a journey of a collector, you already make a huge step because it's no more about fetishizing a collection. It's about a journey. It's already when you look at the collection, not about objects, but as a journey, already I think you've made a huge step to make yourself have a happy life.
Yeah.
And after, in this journey, you will give different types of meaning. You will have different types of encounters. But I think we are in this journey at this moment. And this journey is much more exciting than before. I've never had as excitement as today, because we have entered into what in the Middle Age was called the terra incognita, unknown territories. And so it opens the door to a lot of dream, but also perhaps a lot of failure.
Yeah, well, it's also about sharing the journey with others, right? And I think if it's okay, I will now talk to Gillian, talking about, you know, experiences, immersive experience, sort of moving away from the traditional. So Gillian, you and I, we met, I think it was first when we did Disconnect in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Disconnect, that was actually Schoeni Projects, our first venture into virtual reality, because we moved that exhibition using Matterport as a platform. And then we met again in London and we had a great coffee and we had a wonderful discussion. And I feel like we had a lot to talk about in terms of advancing art and culture through technology. So I think, unfortunately, I've never, you know, had the opportunity yet to visit the Digital Art Fair. But I'm very interested to know how you position your organization and future projects to create people-centric experiences, and how you believe that we can advance art and technology, art culture with technology as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Yeah, to answer your first question is how do we position digital art fair? And this, I think that's come first of all, my background is very much in the traditional fine art management. So I spend a lot of my time in galleries and a few years in museum managing international collection. And that sort of experience have made me have a very deep understanding of how the traditional art world has been working for a while. It was very wonderful experience, but and then I think it started the last 10 years I was doing more traditional galleries management, and the last couple of years is really something that really changed very quickly. I think Sylvain know the story very well, because Sylvain actually have helped me to give me a lot of I would say mentorship towards like when I built digital art fair. I think one thing that I noticed, and actually why digital art fair started, was because when I was working in the gallery for the last couple of years when I was in London, it was between 2018 to 2019. One thing, I was actually managing a contemporary Chinese artist, a Chinese gallery at that time. But one thing I noticed very, very clearly was the amount of art collectors that walk through the door has been massively decreased. It was very, very clear from when I started working in galleries in 2012 in Hong Kong, and it was, every day there was someone very exciting coming in. There was like everybody coming in, and they were very interested in the art. And in 2019-18, people rarely walked in the gallery. And the reason was not because their artist was not exciting at all. It was just because we have one of these phones. and it was so obvious to me, because I also have some sort of background with communications. So it's very clearly a shift of how we communicate, like what Sylvain was saying earlier, is we lived in sort of, even in the metaverse these days, we communicate through Zoom now, but back in 2012, 13, we didn't have that. We have to with a map. There was no Google Map back then, or maybe we just started, but you certainly could not comment on a restaurant that you went to and give them like 1 star. Definitely didn't happen that time. And not to say that you can't see the art on the phone, right? But now everybody can, like, you can go on Jackie's Instagram and look at his work, right? You can go on your Schoeni Project website to see the exhibition. That didn't happen before. And so that makes, for me, in the art world, that creates some sort of problems. Like, when an event that happened or galleries opening that happen, they don't really feel as interested as much as they used to, because a lot of the things they've already seen on your Instagram or on your website. But then the digital art fair idea started really was because when I would say, because the blockchain technology kind of like, coming up, and the NFTs, I heard about NFT for the first time in 2018. So I was very curious as an art curator, right? As an art gallerist myself. Like, what are these people talking about? Like, why are people buying digital art online but not coming to the galleries? Because I was sitting there every day, right? I'm like, why don't you come talk to me? Why don't you come buy some art from me when you want to go on a website? So I started going onto this NFT platform, and I look at this art. I was like, okay, I get it, because there are some really good artists there. But the problem, one problem I've got is because I was trained in their traditional like art gallery sense. Like, I like to see things like, display in a certain way, and kind of, like a little bit that, and how is it be the story, how should it be told? So I decided that this NFT art amazing, the digital art is amazing, but let's bring it into real life and do it properly, like in the right way, in a fine art way, and tell the story better. And also one thing is make this digital event, make this digital party much more interesting, right? Because 99%, unfortunately I say this, but I'm pretty sure this is quite true, 99% of our time now spent on the internet. Like, even now, like, I wish I were with you guys, but we're all in different places right now. But, and then that 1% of the time, maybe we meet up for coffee in London, or I can go see Sylvain in Paris, or I meet Jackie in Singapore. That make up 1% of our time being together. So I'm trying, so what digital art fair really is, that 1% of the time. that you come together and meet this person, you have a great time looking at all this art together. And digital art fair was about that. And also, one of the things is the younger generation, the younger kids. So like, I know Nicole, you have kids. I know Sylvain, you also have kids and grandchildren, and so is Jackie. Right? We all have young children. Can you imagine trying to get them a art book and just flip through it these days? It's very difficult. But if somehow there is a screen involved, they're much more engaging. Unfortunately, right? But then it shouldn't, it is not necessarily a problem if we can kind of use that as our advantage. So digital art fair also saw, I guess like I also saw that problem, and we want to make it not go away, but use that as our advantage. How do you educate the young generation these days? How do they look at art? And where do they look at art? There's different ways that you can do it. Instagram, Twitter, Metaverse, Goggle, everything. So that's pretty much why the vision of digital art fair is, right? Younger generation, we hope we can lure them back in, come back to look at some meaningful art, promote some meaningful artists, and really become one of the special time we got to spend together outside of the metaverse.
It's kind of connecting real life with digital art, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's more of also an experience.
Yes. So the immersive part that you were referring to is also something that I feel quite strongly with technology, because I think traditionally we look at paintings. Like, I mean, I still love physical painting, but I feel like immersive experience give you a chance to be feeling like you are completely immersed in the artwork, which just doesn't happen quite a lot, right? Like, most of the time you kind of still, the angle is you are away from it. But immersive technology really let the artist to be able to shape you inside his art. The way that the angle, the work, and the screen, the position, you feel like you are inside that special space that they created. It could be a stage that in Jackie's mind, right? Like, there's a stage artwork that we were planning to do for digital art fair this year. We were thinking about creating this space based on Jackie's painting, something like that. So it is a very unique experience that you can connect the audience to the art.
Okay, I'm sort of hesitating in my next question because it's such a big topic. But when we were talking about NFTs and people's understanding of NFT and the definition of NFT. And I think you have put it across really well, because I'm not ashamed to admit I am really an amateur and I'm really still learning. So I have to ask you, Gillian. Actually, I'd like to ask all three of you, really.
Yes, please.
What is the definition of an NFT? We'll just keep it very short and brief. We won't go into the whole topic.
Since you're asking this question, I would like to remind Sylvain, we had this conversation about a year ago. So I asked Sylvain, what do you think of NFT? Like, it was about a year ago. And Sylvain was telling me, like, I think you said was you were not sure back then. I think you were not completely convinced. You were observing. So I think maybe I want to hear what Sylvain thinks today.
Would you mind to give us your definition of an NFT to an amateur, to a dummy?
First, I think that everybody is learning. Once again, nobody has the truth, and nobody today can say things in a very, very, very direct way. For me, once again, I like to have simple ideas of perhaps difficult or complex concepts. For me, in a very simple way, and I'm still making my homework, Gillian, and I do hope that I will keep doing. I just want to say something, Gillian, what you've done, a huge step forward for the art world with your fair. And I really believe that. And, I was supporting your fair, and we're still partner this year. I think that what you've done, you have opened the door to actually say a new world. And you've done it in a very, very professional way. And I think that for me, the fact that you're doing another one is already a fact of success. coming back to your question, which is a very difficult question, you know, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to answer, but I should prefer you to answer it. No, I think that in a very simple way, for me, an NFT is a container. Is a container of a content, is a container of, I shall say, a container of a content, a container of a token. The other thing is the NFT is a way to access a new type of community and to access a new type of monetarization. Plus, what is the very important thing is that since we are entering into this new metaverse or digital world, we have to create, I shall say, tools for authentication and tools for making things marketable. And the NFT is a way to authentify digital assets or digital goods and a way to make them, I shall say, tradable. So this is for me my definition at this moment of NFT. But I would like to have also your definition, Jackie and Gideon.
Maybe Gillian first.
Jackie,
Gillian
go.
first.
Go for it. Yes.
From my humble opinion, NFT is a certification, your artwork certification from the blockchain. The blockchain remember your artwork for a long time. So and then the artist benefits from NFT because every trade you get a certain percentage. So that's everyone knows. But for me, is the most important thing is you got the certification from the blockchain, and your artwork will be remembered in the virtual world forever. So that's pretty simple.
I think the application is what's really interesting, right? Especially like Sylvain, you were saying, it's about provenance. And then, of course, the advantage for the artist too. I actually bought my first NFT 2 days ago. It was a non-fungible Venus, Marcello Quan, I don't know. It was a charity-based NFT, which is what inspired me to, take part. But I have to say, it was, for someone who's tech illiterate, it was quite complex. But it was still quite fun to take part in. So, but anyway, sorry, Gillian, how do you define NFT?
Well, my definition is quite boring, because I look at it as it's very similar to what Sylvain was saying. It's like a ticket, right? It's like when you really think about non-fungible token, it's a token. A token is like, when you go to one of those rides, they give you a fake token, and then you have that token, then you can go on a slide, right? So first, that token in the metaverse is not physical. You can't see it, you can't touch it. It's 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, and then it goes on forever, right? So so that token represents this image. This image is a piece of artwork. For me, I prefer physical work still. Somehow I still prefer physical work. But if that digital work on the internet somehow either supporting an artist, which I believe, or even better, this day you join a club or whatever, they give me some sort of, my token. This token is going to this club that I can go on a slide with my friends or whatever, and then you can do something. That is one. Or the other way that we actually did in Digital Art Fair last year, and we will continue doing that, is to make sure that token also connect with real physical piece of art. So like you have the metaverse NFT, you can either that work is completely digital, right? Is one thing that I really like about is somehow there's a profile picture crave going on, right? Like everybody wants their artwork as a profile picture these days. And if that can be done and then used as a profile picture and show me the art that I support is that artist make it or belong to a group, I like that. But otherwise, this NFT to me is a token that I can go on different rides
and be part.
Can I add something, Nicole?
Yes.
Conceptually speaking, it's interesting. Today there is a, I shall say, a discussion, especially with China. China has, you cannot have NFTs in China. You can have a digital collectible. And there is a huge difference between a digital collectible and an NFT. The big difference is about the spirit. The NFT is about decentralization. And this is very important. It means that an artist doesn't need anymore a gallery to sell something. It's about the creator economy. In China, it's centralized. It's centralized, is under the control of the government. So you cannot call them NFT because it's not decentralized. It's about, I shall say, a digital collectible. And you will always have to find the right balance between what is a digital collectible and what is an NFT. And especially what will be very important in the NFT, it will be the smart contract and how the smart contract will be applied in the future. I think this should make a huge difference between the present situation and I shall say the future, if the NFT become about decentralization and about smart contract.
Oh, the whole decentralization, I feel, is a massive topic, which I won't jump into now because I'm still wrapping my head around it, to be honest. Okay, I won't go there. Jackie, nice to finally meet you online. Hopefully see you in person in Hong Kong. So
or in London very soon.
Pardon?
Or in London or Paris.
Oh, London or Paris. I know.
Yeah.
Saying the irony is I'm in France at the moment, where Sylvain is, but not, well, Sylvain's in Corsica, sorry. But I'm now based in London, but I haven't seen you yet in person, but meet you first time in Hong Kong, probably. So Gillian was very kind to introduce us. And I'm quite curious because, you know, Gillian, like you talk about being still loving traditional art, let's say, and I'm very much a traditional art collector. I like physical artworks, and I know, Jackie, that's how you begin, and you're still painting and you're still creating sculptures. I know that in 2019 you worked with Christie's, is that right? Or you created an artwork using augmented reality.
Yeah.
But I guess my question for you really is, you know, you worked across all kinds of physical mediums, let's say, and what led you to sort of explore augmented reality and digital art, and you know, where has it led you today?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a very, very traditional artist because I use a lot of Chinese traditional craft from thousands of years ago, like blue and white porcelain, like lacquer carving, wood carving, embroidery, you know, this sort of very, very old craft. The reason why I'm using that is I think the younger generation, you know, they don't like this sort of Chinese traditional craft anymore. And I really, yeah, it's a shame. So that's why I just make East meets West art, like a very, very pop art style into this sort of Chinese craft. And it makes this very traditional craft interesting again. So the younger generation, you know, like this artwork, and they were like a post online because they never seen that before. So that's a simple reason I'm become a very old traditional artist.
Well, I love the concept, and I think it's brilliant that you're bringing in traditional craft, you know, into something much more contemporary.
And then the reason why I'm doing augmented reality for a big piece for I think it's about 2018 when Jay Cho just phoned me up and said, "Hey Jackie, so how about you did a big artwork for me to sum up my 20 years, you know, artist career." And I said, okay, that's such a big challenge, but I feel quite honored to take this challenge. And then after I finished like a very big painting, 2.5 meter height, 8 meter long artwork in 12 months. And I feel I still have a lot of things, a lot of information to say on this piece. And the physical artwork has such a limit to express myself. So I talked to my team and I said, how about we integrate the cutting edge technology to show the other dimension of this artwork. So that's why we're using the AR technology. So everyone just simply just using the phone, scan the artwork, you see the other side of the artwork, which is all animated. And you will find a lot of hidden imagery, the hidden information behind the artwork. It became such a success. So, you know, that was the beginning of, I creating the artwork in a traditional way, but using the technology to help me. So I think in the sense that I'm using a lot of technology in my art, and I'm become a very modern artist. So from old artist to modern artist.
Let's stop using the word old. Maybe traditional. So how are you applying sort of technology, and is it still using augmented reality? Or I know you're working with Jillian on the upcoming.
Yes. I think
you don't have to give too much away if you don't want to, but
I think if you want to be a very good artist, you really want to be very brave, very audacious. So that's why we are doing something very out of my imagination. But a few years ago, I never think I'm gonna doing this. So we are gonna doing an immersive room in Hong Kong, and also all the NFT project using the hologram fans, using the LEDs, and also a lot of artwork. It will be programmable. So the artwork probably will end up something I never imagined before because it's all programmed. So,
okay. So it's constantly evolving.
Yeah,
computer algorithms to do that. Jillian, now I know why you're so busy.
For example, when artwork, because I'm doing all the like East meets West art. So when artwork will transform based on the exchange rate between USD to Chinese RMB. So once the USD go up, so once the USD the value raise up, and so it will become more like a Western sculpture. So once the Chinese RMB value go up, you will see more like the Buddha sculpture, the Chinese Buddha in the artwork. So that's the beauty of the technology. So just certainly open another door for our artists to produce something amazing.
Yeah,
because
just for the record, this is Jackie's idea, not mine. So he actually come up with all this idea. Another back, I was like, that's what an artist can come up with when he got in touch with technology. Like I was just surprised, and when I heard that.
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't think because I always come up some silly idea, but I really want the technology to help us in our daily life rather than just become very far away from our life. So
I don't think using at all. I think it's a brilliant idea. You really are connecting your artwork to real time. Right, and things that are part of the economy and what's affecting people in real life.
Yeah, but people were very easy to understand the idea behind the artwork. But sometimes if you're using technology as too profound, people don't understand. So programmable sounds very complicated. But if you're using the simple idea, so will help the normal collector to understand.
So this concept and this idea can be realized.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, very interesting. And then is there any other, I mean, you mentioned before that you're doing a lot of traveling. all those exhibitions you have planned, is it still traditional form, or is it a combination? Or are you moving more and more towards digital?
I think the summer of the show, like the Hong Kong show with Jillian, will be very, very contemporary, very, very digital. But the other show, well, I think I can show the whole universe of my art, from the very traditional art like blue and white porcelain, from to the present art like the canvas work, to the future art, the digital art. So I can show the whole universe of my art. So that's something I feel very proud of myself. So I think I'm the very few artists can both using the Chinese traditional craft and also the cutting edge technology.
Okay, and as a previous gallerist, I have to ask, we were talking about NFT and how it's sort of this decentralized, and artists can now go straight to their collectors. I'm curious to know whether you agree with that, and if you believe in that it will remove the necessity of galleries.
I think the traditional way still works, but yeah, because if I don't think all the artists they are suitable to do the NFT art. So for the traditional artists, I mean the very traditional oil painter, they still need to go to the gallery, go through all the gallery channels. But for our very like modern artists, if you are doing digital art, you can still work with the gallery, but you can still sell it in any platform. So I think the both way work. That's my answer.
Okay, because of course I would argue that artists still need gallerists, they still need art fairs. Just
of course, a lot of artists. So if you, I think the normal artists, they really want to focus on their creation. They don't want to, taking care about their commercial side. So you still need a pretty good gallery to represent you. But if you are quite balanced, maybe you can do something else.
Okay, good. That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Thank you.
Even though I've moved away from gallery model, but
yeah.
Right. Well, I think I've got a question for all three of you. And this is something which is also for me to learn. I think like Sylvain was saying, this is sort of still in its so-called infancy, and I love the idea of test and learn. So, like I said, with our SPXR, we came up with so many difficulties and obstacles, and at times I just wanted to give up, but we persevered. But I think for people who want to build a virtual museum, or base their art collection in connecting with a new audience, or Jillian, for people who want to promote digital art in this fast-changing environment, and for you, Jackie, in terms of creativity, do you have any suggestions or lessons that you've learned that people should keep in mind if they do want to venture into this sort of direction? Should we start with Sylvain?
That's different.
I mean, you must have come up with a lot of challenges and obstacles, and I know you have a can-do attitude, but is there any, I don't know, any insights or suggestions you could give?
Once again, it comes back to the notion of what you want to make with your life, and what you want to make with in collecting and art in your life. That's, I think the basic question is that. Is it if it's just to collect works and to exhibit works, you can do it in the very traditional way, either through exhibition, either through museums, either whatever. If you want to speak the language of your time, and you collect NFT also, because NFT is part of the medium of our time, if you want to speak the language of a time and share it with the others, so you have to go into what are the relevant mediums and messages to reach different types of audiences. So you will go into video games, you will go into the metaverse. So I think once again, it depends on what you want to do with yourself and what you do with the collection. Once again, this is the first idea. The second idea is that you should never, I shall say, never not be afraid of failure. You know, it's very important. You know, life is made of discovery. Life is made of being curious. And by being curious, even if you are not succeeding in the way you want it, you will learn a lot of things, but also you will connect with other people. And I think this is, and just I want to say something about our new project, because you will understand a little bit, because you were talking about traditional art, you were talking about our latest project, the one we are working today, is a very interesting project. We've been approached by Ukrainian people, and we are creating a national VR Ukrainian pavilion on the Sensa. And in this pavilion, there will be art, there will be music, there will be fashion design. And just to give you some numbers, we made an open call for Ukrainian artists, and we had 300 people, 250 people answering. We made an open call for fashion design, digital fashion design. We had 600 people coming. Wow. We will create the Fashion Ukrainian week there. And what is important is at a time where Ukraine is not accessible, it will give accessibility, but also at a time where the art is in danger, we can preserve it by bringing it into the metaverse. So I think this is also very important, is to give to your project also a kind of perhaps a dream way to look at things. And I think this is also very important in a collection, to have a kind of dream way to look at things.
Yeah, a sense of meaning and purpose. Okay. Gillian?
Oh, my tips. I think I think my tips would be I like the way that like Nicole was saying earlier on, like I do agree that I think the new technology like Web3, if you like to say, is in the very early infancy stage. It really is, because like all the technology we're talking about right now, if you know, not a lot of people have actually processed it, or not a lot of people have actually seen it. So I would say, and this is the infancy stage, and when you first starting doing something, I did it before, and I can totally feel what Sylvain was saying about not giving up, because it's a lot of those ideas, you know, when you first come up with an idea, when before it was done, it was just an idea until you execute it. And most of the people, I think a lot of people do not like changes. And if you want to do something new, most of the people will be like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And I had that when I was starting the project. Most people tell me that, like, I remember going to pitch some other affairs, like, because they came to me and asked me, hey, do you want to do a special project? And I was like, yes, absolutely. I propose to do this. And some of them came back, but it was a very early on. It was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They said, no one wants to see this immersive room or something like that. And I think, and when someone tells you no, yes, I was defeated for a few times, or like, you know, learning a new app or trying to learn about VR exhibition online. I was like, that was not good enough, but I can try to do something else. So I, you know, just keep learning. And it's just like learning anything in life, right? Like it's like learning how to ride a bicycle for the first time. You're not going to know how to do it in the first, I don't know, hour. I did it for like 2 days, I think. So learning how to ride a bicycle for the first time, and I'm 30, 40 years old, is like, it's not going to be easy. But if we don't learn, we will become, you know, like, it's like now if you don't know how to use a phone, you're gonna have a problem. Yeah. Right. So I think in the next couple of years, like, we all need to learn how to use somehow maybe we all goggle. I really don't know. Like the future is undefined at this moment, but who knows, right? Like last couple of years from like what happened to that NFT auction with people and 2 years ago until now, everybody's like, what is going on, right? Like the artwork, especially, just everybody's having so many question marks. From like one thing that I learned, right? Last couple of years when I'm talking about digital art, and no one wants to talk to me. No, everybody thinks I was crazy. Now, anywhere you go in Hong Kong, every single where you no, not that, but every mall you go to, every museum you go to, they all have digital screen, they all have VR goggle, they all have immersive room. I'm not joking. Every single mall in Hong Kong, like from Denmark to Pacific Place, they all have an immersive room in there. And 2 years ago, when I say that, people were thinking that, what are you talking about, lady?
Well, I think what happened is, sorry to interrupt, but with the media and NFTs and the numbers, prices that people were talking about, they kind of got almost brainwashed into thinking it was quick and easy. But back to what you said, Sylvain, it's really about giving it purpose and meaning. I mean, right? And just having. And then we talk about art and culture and technology. Like it's easy to create something and just, someone goes with a VR goggle, but it has to have some sort of long-term lasting effects or inspiration. And I think that is really still happening. And that's why I really want to go see your art. But it's
one thing I love about the NFT, I don't know how you call it, a hype or whatever. When we still, I think we just kind of come down to hype, but I think it gives a lot of people attention to artists, a lot, much more than it used to before. Like I used to be the minority in a table, like let's talk about artists, let's talk about exhibition and museum. People were like, let's talk about, I don't know, stock or something else.
or property.
Now everybody like, NFT, you artists that makes NFT, then you become like cool, because now art and culture is the cool stuff to know, which didn't happen for a very long time, right? So that at least is one thing that I was very happy about, to see the changes last couple of years and making art cool again, or I don't know, making art great again, really.
And accessible. Yeah.
Accessible, yes.
How about you, Jackie? What do you think? What if you were a young, I don't know, aspiring artist, do you have any insights or?
Yeah, my tips will be, if you have any idea, don't wait and make it happen now, because that's the reason me and Gillian working together, and we have the same philosophy. I think the most of Hong Kong people, they are working very hard and they will make the idea happen. So the reason why I'm doing the digital art is that, so if I have the idea and I really want to make it happen, because you don't know what happened next, because we are in the COVID life and a lot of people die. And before COVID, I always think I can release my idea 20% each year. But now I change my idea completely. If I have any idea, make it happen. So if I have like a 10 or 100 projects, they all very good, I make it happen now. I don't want to sleep. So that's my tips to the young artists. Never wait your idea. Or when you wait, and someone else will make your idea happen. So that's very important thing for artists, for any art people in the art world, and make it happen.
Okay, great. Well, I think we can open up now to our viewers and see if there's any Q&A. We've got some questions coming in. So one question is, do you think the virtual metaverse enhances or takes away from our experience of art in the corporal? And what does it do to the legacy of pre-metaverse art and the production of future art? Sylvain. Does anyone want to take that one? Oh, Sylvain's leap forward.
It's a vast question. I think I will put it in another way. Okay, the metaverse will happen. You like it or you don't like it, it will happen. So let's begin with that, perhaps this statement. And I don't think that I will be wrong. It will happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. But what is interesting is how to make this new world not looks like 1984 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah.
How we can bring humanism in this world. How we can make people have perhaps a utopian life compared to some dystopian life that we can have in the reality. I think once you've put the challenge about humanism, about trying to bring emotion, then you bring artists and you bring culture. And naturally, the artist and the culture will have to adapt with this new world, with this new medium. But at the end of the story is to bring emotion to the people, to be relevant for their life. So I think this should be the North Star of any new metaverse. And you can take old works and put them in the metaverse. There's no problem. But how you make these old works have the same emotion that they had in the old world? This is the challenge. But it's not the difference between the old and the new world. It's how you can create emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that topic of humanism is one thing, you know, before I was saying I'm quite a cynic. And, you know, Gillian, we were talking about we all have kids and you think about the next generation. And I worry that there's this lack of social connections and how to be sure that, you know, they can have an avatar or live in this second world without losing human connections. And I think that's still a big question mark, really. And, you know, in terms of putting art, that's what we did with SPXR and my father's Chinese art collection was, you know, we put basically JPEGs of his art collection into a virtual space. But of course, I myself know, and I believe that you can't recreate that emotional interaction with an artwork, with a physical artwork in a virtual space, but we still try to use it as an educational tool. And as I was telling Sylvain, we're building up the archive of Schoeni Art Gallery. So we had 180 exhibitions over 20 years, and we're trying to use it as an educational tool. But I think, you know, Sylvain, you are sort of jumping those boundaries through gamification, right? Introducing physical art and gamification and trying to create a different experience. I mean, I hope, I see digital art as just another medium, really. I don't know, Jackie and Gillian, if you agree that it's not a replacement. I mean, for me, painting is not dead. And it's really just another tool and another medium to express oneself.
Yeah, I'm keep doing painting, but try to using the technology combine into the painting. So I think that's the future trend.
So when you, I'm curious, Jackie, when you did the artwork with the augmented reality,
yeah.
I'm assuming you saw people's response. Was there a different response depending on their generation or?
Yeah, they really like it. They really like it. For example, I had a print. So when you're using your phone, the artwork will jump out of the frame and try to interact, you know, with the audience. So everyone just you know, posts their the video you know, online, you know, to show the appreciation. So I really like it. So the younger generation definitely like this sort of way. So as they feel the artwork should be like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings to life a sense of wonder.
Yeah. You need to do something different for the younger generation. Otherwise, I think it's too boring.
Yeah, I agree. Right, we have a few more questions. Who do you think are the gatekeepers for NFTs? I'm such a tech illiterate, I don't even know what that means. gatekeeper as an artist, or let's see, there's other questions as well. Oh, well, Sylvain, how can one visit your DSL collection virtually?
I will send you the link on Sensor,
Okay, great.
where already you can visit two spaces. One which was done with Shenzhen, the Pinchgarten Art Museum, where there are works of the collection inside. There is another space which was done with the NYU T-shirt School, where we have recreated Washington Square Garden. And naturally, we'll have this Ukrainian pavilion where there is not the collection of DSL, but there is other works. And so I will send you the links, and so you will be able to visit it.
Great, we'll share that with our participants. Okay, so gatekeeper as in museums and curators. So who are the museums and curators, gatekeepers of NFT? I'm kind of looking at Gillian, but I think in some ways.
I actually don't really get that, but I think let's see if there Simone. Okay. Okay, got you, Simone. So Simone just said gatekeepers as in museum and curator. Oh wow, that's a good question. You know what, like I think there are museums that really start picking on digital art. Like Sylvain definitely is one of the first done the virtual museum. I know there are different, like for example, British Museum actually issued NFTs before. And there are, I'm looking at a lot of like other projects in Hong Kong actually, like for example, M+ Museum have arguably, I don't know if they're actually going to go ahead, but previously we did have some sort of buzz about them releasing, I think, some sort of like digital art, a token, etc. So I think there are museums coming onto the space. I do know there are curators. There are actually quite a lot of curators. Like, I mean, Sylvain working with the Ukrainian like artists. Those are artists, and like they're definitely curating and going there. I mean, anyone who's done digital art exhibition these days is also working some curating work. I do know there are different people and around doing that. You know, crypto.com actually have really good art curators there. Like that's for what I know. But and I think a lot of different ones there. But if you ask me to name their name, I probably can't say it right now. But,
so for your art fair, did you work with curators or do you work directly?
Yes. Well, myself and Joyce. So Joyce is herself. She's in the office right now, actually. So Joyce obviously similar background to me. She's been working with like, you know, Decitras, Asia Society, very much in the traditional art world, but she have grew interest in the Web3 space, and she's been helping me to, you know, talking to galleries, and you know, and also a lot of galleries actually have a lot of digital art, so many of them. It's just a matter of understanding that, you know, it's a new medium that we're moving towards the kind of like the new generation looking forward. But my team, I have some really good curator, and also Herman is our art and technology manager. He actually used to be very interesting. He was the archivalist in the City University of Hong Kong. So if you know City University of Hong Kong, we actually have a very interesting art program here, which included one of the professor, Jeff Saul. And he actually was he's like in his 70s as well, but he's been teaching digital art for many years. But all come from traditional art to digital art.
That's good to take it all on board. Well, you can tell, hey, I'm trying to digitize our archive. So in library.
That takes a lot of work. Yes.
Where you can actually click on the book and then it takes you to the archive website. But yeah, it's been quite a feat to sort of digitize 180 exhibitions over 20 years. But it's you know, but
Absolutely.
it's been great because we've already had some feedback from researchers and students. So it's sort of that side of using technology, art, and education. Right. Are there any other questions from our viewers? Let's see. I have a question myself. So while people see the metaverse, I know we talked about many different definitions, but as an alternative platform, opportunity, or solution to physical events during the pandemic, how can we ensure its long-term values, sustainability, and its impact? Like, how can we make sure that this is something that, how do I word it a different way? To continue on a positive path, I suppose. I mean, we've touched on it a few times already. You know, Sylvain mentioned humanity, the humanity side of it. You know, how can we ensure that this is something positive for the younger generation, I guess? Anybody?
It's a very interesting question. I would just, you know, one thing that I actually think about when you first asked that just popped up in my mind was cyberbullying. You know how this is like a hot topic for a long time, and no one seems to really think about that in the metaverse space. Actually, no one talk about, but isn't that kind of something that's interesting to think about as well? Because it's also much more, if you would say, more intimate, if you have the VR goggle on, if you have all this and voice and something like that. But I you know, for us, I first do think that I hope that art and culture, I think, is have a very, very positive impact on most of the people when they encounter it. Most of the time is about kind of inspiring them to think about how life could be. Most of the artists like do talk about meaningful topics, but I do think that like it is, when we merge into the metaverse, there could be chances of, you know, like not positive. Right? There could be people that ruining the pot. But
that's part of my conflict with the concept of decentralization. You know,
yes,
ultimately that means, I mean, it's great, no rules, no regulation, but that also opens up a lot of doors to mistreatment or misuse of it.
So, you know, Nicole, let's go back 30, 40 years ago. You know, when the internet began, it was a place where people were dreaming. You know, it was escape. It was about Netscape. It was a place where you can find a way to connect communities. It was a place where you can surf. And you know how the internet has moved and what is the internet today. I think that we are, perhaps as a dreamer, I do believe that the metaverse, we are a little bit at the stage at what was the internet in the beginning. I do believe that there will be two ways for the metaverse. The one controlled by corporate, like Meta. But I do hope that there will be also in this space places for experiences which are linked with pleasure, happiness, and freedom. I think that we can recreate in the metaverse with your avatar, call it digital twin, a way to rediscover cyber flannery, a way to move with take a good example, an old person who is in a retirement house. Tomorrow, with her avatar, she will be capable to take her grandson and visit an exhibition in Paris. And this could change the life of the people. I think that once again, everything becomes what you want to do it, what you want to make it. I have the idea that we can make a metaverse have perhaps a bright side. But you like it or you don't like it, you will have to go through the metaverse, because the metaverse will be a place where you will have to live in the future. Yeah. At least part of your life.
I like your optimism.
It's the Corsica sun. It's the Corsica sun.
Oh, yes, of course. That's great. Well, I think we can sort of round it up. If we don't have any more questions coming in. Obviously, thank you so much. I've learned quite a lot today, and I feel like we can continue these conversations, hopefully face to face, either all together or one-on-one. Just to tell our audience that we're actually going to give a guided tour tomorrow of SPXR. It will be a Zoom call so that we can introduce people to the exhibition. The curator, it will be led by our curator, Martha. Hi, Martha. Just quickly joined us. And it's very much an exhibition about my father's collection and his journey, as well as looking at Schoeni Art Gallery and the contributions my father and the gallery did. And then after the tour, the Zoom tour, we also invite people to enter SPXR themselves. And we'll be there to help people navigate, because it's still a new world for me anyway. So thank you, Sylvain, Gillian, Jackie. I hope you have a great, well, Gillian, end to your day. You're in Hong Kong, and Jackie in London, and Sylvain in Corsica. And this tour, this Zoom will be recorded, and we'll put it online, and we'll share it once it's available. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Nicole,
you.
for
Thank
organizing.
you for having us.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you.
Guys,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Au revoir. À bientôt.
Bye.